What's up, y'all? I'm Will here with Schedulefly, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, one of the highest rated hospitality podcasts in the world, brought to you by us at Schedulefly. We provide a very simple web-based restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service. If you're on pencil and paper or Excel, or you're on some software with tons of bells and whistles and features you don't need or use, Schedulefly is the perfect place for you. Easy to use, point, click, and go, and we'll take great care of you. Schedulefly.com, free trial, check it out. Also, this podcast is brought to you by our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Webstaurant Store, the ultimate destination for restaurant pros. Whether you're launching a new cafe or prepping for the holiday rush, we've got you covered with top-notch equipment and everyday essentials, all at unbeatable prices. And right now, you can score $50 off your order of $250 or more when you use this code, WebSave50. All together, all one word, all caps, WebSave50 at checkout. Again, that's WebSave50, WEBSAVE50. But act fast, because this deal ends December 31st. Visit webstaurantstore.com to keep your kitchen running strong. This was a really fun conversation with Daniel, who owns Grumpy's Restaurant, one corporate-owned location, 4 franchisees. They're in Jacksonville, Florida, and I'll just say this guy and I are so aligned philosophically, for better or for worse, but we are so aligned philosophically on just how to operate a business and a lot of the old school ways of doing business that seem very basic, but are so valuable to running a successful business. I love, and I mean love, the way Daniel and his wife and his team are building this business. This is a freaking awesome episode, and I highly recommend checking it out. Daniel, Grumpy's, Jacksonville, Florida, great story, great brand, and just a cool dude. You will love hearing this conversation, and you will definitely learn a lot if you listen to how he operates his business. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. We would love if you would give us a like on YouTube, or a comment or a rating on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen. The more likes and comments and ratings we get, the better chance we have of getting this content out in front of more people. The first thing is just introduce yourself.
I'm Daniel DeLeon with Grumpy's Restaurant and Grumpy's Restaurant franchisor.
And you're in Jacksonville, right? Florida?
Jacksonville, Florida. That's right.
Jacksonville, Florida. Home of Leonard Skinner. And then I always ask people to tell me how you got started in hospitality. Now, I read I went through your LinkedIn bio. I'm curious if you had been in hospitality prior to college or whatever. I saw that you graduated from Florida. It looks like you were a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch for like a year, and then you've been in the restaurant business ever since. So was that your first start when you were a year or so out of college, or a year or two out of college, or had you grown up in the business?
No, actually, yeah. Hospitality, my first job was when I opened my first franchise. A year out of college. I went to University of Florida thinking I was going to be, an investment banker, Wolf of Wall Street. Got a job at Merrill Lynch here in Jacksonville. And funny story, through the interview process, no one mentioned that it was a call center environment, and inbound calls all day wasn't what I expected. I did well in college. I felt like I was ready, got my licenses, all these things. And then boom, call center. I was like, whoa, I got to make a change. My entrepreneurial spirit just was not fit for a cubicle, right? I was like, I can do more. I'm, underutilized, overqualified. And I took a chance with a franchise that I kind of really taken a liking to in college. And then that franchise in the quick service space moved me to another one, and then owning multiple units of multiple franchise concepts in the hospitality space um, just pushed me into loving the hospitality space and then wanting to do it on my own.
Man, I love that. So It's so funny how, like, particularly with entrepreneurs or people that have an entrepreneurial spirit, um, and I would put myself in the same boat. You kind of go through college thinking like this is the path I'm going to go down. The thing is, though, typically that's a non-entrepreneurial path. It's a path that you're like sort of almost programmed or led to believe like this is a smart way to go and this is what you should do. And then you kind of get in, you're like, what the heck, man? Like, why is all this happening? This is stupid. Why do you do it this way? And it's like, well, dude, that's corporate America. Like you just started. Nobody cares what you think. And you're like, yeah, but I have, it's like that doesn't
Yeah.
last very long, man. I mean, I lasted a couple years in banking and then it was just like, no way. Well, so there you are thinking you're going to be a financial advisor, an investment banker, and then you go, okay, this doesn't work. So you had what franchise was it? You had been a customer there and thought it was cool and you just checked into it, or how did that happen?
Yeah, I pretty much would eat there every day. It was called the Pita Pit. It was right across from
Oh
campus
yeah.
in
Okay.
Gainesville and out of Idaho. Here, actually originated in Canada and then was bought by a U.S. company, and they bought the rights, I guess, to all the United States. And I thought I was going to do a five-store deal with them. Um, but then, life as an entrepreneur takes over, and the other opportunities, different territories, and I realized, what, the area development that I thought I was going to go into is actually I want to go a different direction with another brand I got involved with. Um, and that, I was more full service here out of Jacksonville, and then I ran with that for about 6 years, and then didn't know what I was going to do, and then got into consulting for RBI. Company owns Tim Hortons, Popeyes, Burger King, all types of thousands of restaurants, and working with the larger scale franchisees, and helping them scale and grow and do all the things I was good at. I was like, wow, I should really do this. I have the knowledge from the franchisee and multi-unit franchisee of multiple brands, and then I have the knowledge of working as the franchisor representative and consultant on the franchisor end. I really felt like I could do it and become a franchisor and launch my own brand and do this in a fast track way because of my experience and the knowledge in the space on both ends. It would give me a good recipe to success on not only just the hospitality and the operations side, but also the franchising side, which is a whole nother set of business, right?
When there's a lot of people I think that have an idea of what it's like to own and run a restaurant that have never owned and run a restaurant. And I think there's a big variance between the idea of what you think it must be like and what it actually is like. Um, we've been doing this podcast for a lot of years now, like 12 years or something. And when I started the podcast, I thought, I'm going to interview a lot of really smart people that are really good at what they do. And I'm going to figure out what the common threads are. And then one day I'm going to have my own restaurant. And it didn't take me long to realize, oof, you know what? I'll sit on the sidelines and talk to people that run great restaurants, but I don't have what it takes to run a. I don't think I have the ability to manage the number of the wide array of skills that you have to master and the calm in the midst of storms and fires that you have to maintain literally every day. I mean, it's like
Every
always
day.
it's every single day. It's really, really, I tell all my friends that like know what I do, but don't, I've never run around. I'm like, you have no idea how hard it is to run. I mean, I'm just talking about like to just open every day and not have something really bad happen and have a successful day where you make a little bit of money. It's hard. It's like really freaking hard. And so I have realized an intense amount of respect for folks like you that are in the arena. And I wonder when you said, okay, Pita Pit, let's do this. Was it like when you got started, was it like, hell yeah, this is hard, but I love the challenge? Or was it like, holy crap, this is harder than I thought? Or maybe a little bit of both.
So I was brought up to love the challenge, right? And to
Okay.
win. Sports background. tons of support from my parents, my father, so the hard work, my parents are both immigrants. My father's from Cuba, my mom's from Italy. So the hard
Mm.
work aspect is non-negotiable, right? You're brought up to, there's no situation too hard, too big. It needs to be successful, right? There's no other option, right? My father actually initially helped me out with some capital to take that first leap. So there was no option to mess that up, right?
Yeah.
That was great. But then what I really realized was go to the training, 11-day training in Idaho, great, awesome training. But come opening support, 2, 3 days, gone. Dan, you got it. You're doing great. You're smart enough. You have all the tools. You know enough about operations. You're good to go. And then that was about it. I'll catch somebody every 2, 3 years. Maybe they'll
Huh.
come by. Maybe they'll just call. And
Yeah.
that was my experience, my first experience in franchising. Now, I didn't need any additional support. It didn't not deliver because I asked, but I was just a little bit surprised. I don't know how people who maybe weren't as versed in operations, like you mentioned, could be successful. It
Right.
would seem like it's counterintuitive on the franchisor end to just open and jolt, go to the next store, go to the next store, right? And that's I loved everything about Peter, but opened the doors, taught me a lot. I was with them for 10 years, owning that brand. So I have nothing negative. They didn't do anything wrong. They just didn't offer a lot in the support space. Now, a great operator typically is a great operator, right? But I think knowing what I know now, not all operators are created equal, right? And some may be stronger in operations, but not as strong in the financial aspect or not as strong in marketing. So you need additional support in those areas that maybe people aren't as comfortable in. Not saying they can't master it, but it's going to take time to teach and grow and then to learn and experience things. And I was kind of just doing it on my own. And I was a little bit surprised at that. And then, like you said, you get hit with all those daily operations and all these things that have to hit, really hard. And I equated to, I coach my son's travel baseball. And we have to, in this industry, we have to bat 1,000. We cannot hit even for 500, 400, 300 get you in the Hall of Fame in baseball, right?
Yeah.
In the restaurant space, you need about 1,000. You can't
Yeah.
afford to even have 10% of your customers upset. That over the course of 2, 3 years is a recipe for disaster.
Mm.
So it's a very challenging space. And especially it multiplies even more, when you do high volume. Everyone wants to do high volume, be the most successful, the busiest store. Well, that comes with even more challenges, right? More
Hmm.
employees, more equipment, more put through, right? More potential issues, in your operation spectrum. So it's challenging. It's challenging, but at the same time, very rewarding and doable when you have the right systems in place.
Yeah, the franchise thing is interesting. I've learned a lot. I've been talking to a lot of franchise folks recently, and somebody said to me once, you have to figure out if the franchise is for the franchisor or for the franchisee. Um, there are franchises that grow like crazy. There's a lot of franchise fees that go to the franchisor for that. But then, like, is that really a sustainable brand? Because if the franchisees aren't successful, then the brand's going to eventually implode.
Sure.
So, okay. Well, so then so you're now the CEO here at Grumpy's. I read the Grumpy's website, so I read the story, but tell the story of Grumpy's. You guys have a cool concept there.
Yeah, so Grumpy started in '99, right, by an ex-Navy chef when he retired here at NAS Jax. He wanted to, open his own restaurant. He opened a small cafe right around the corner from our corporate store here where it is now. Um, and was the chef Grumpy, right? It was just him, another, his wife and maybe one helper at the time. And over the years, got busier and busier, and he moved to the building that we are now. But then it also changed hands about 6 times. The restaurant has sold. So the name Grumpy's had stood the test of time, but some of the past owners had different visions, right? Some of them wanted to do dinner. Some of them wanted to turn it into like a French bistro, right? So, but always had a little bit of breakfast and lunch flair. They kept that, but then always tried to do different things. So me and my wife purchased it in 2019, and we were with the full intention to bring it back to breakfast and lunch, true Americana.
Yeah.
The French bistro, even entertaining dinner. And the couple that bought it were from France. The last people that purchased, they bought it sight unseen, and came to, Orange Park, Florida, not knowing the language, never being in the restaurant business. And, so we really took it over as more of just an asset sale. And
Uh,
then we knew the community wanted it to be great. They just needed someone to really redevelop and relaunch the brand. And that's what we did. We played off of the character and the old grumpy chef and all that stuff and built a brand and really a clothing line also off of that, a whole merchandising side. And it's been great. I mean, when we purchased it, we tripled sales in less than 2 years and took us over to $3 million mark. And for breakfast and lunch, no alcohol, no delivery, anything like that. So we were just gangbusters. And then that we launched our franchise program. We've opened up 4 successful franchise stores. All of us averaged just about 3 million in sales, and we're really proud of where we are, and but still staying to that roots of the the grumpy chef, small mom and pop. We have smaller restaurants, smaller footprint, always busy, hustle and bustle, traditional Americana diner style.
or so how many corporate owned and how many franchise?
So we have one corporate store and we have
Okay.
4 franchise units.
All in and around Jacksonville?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
And that's by design, right? Because like we talked about, you mentioned, is the franchise brand in it for franchising, for the franchisor, or for the franchisee? We would actually prefer to not even have a corporate store and only work for our franchisees.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
my background in franchising, that's where I feel like the industry lacked in this ongoing support, the additional help, not just being here to open and have a great opening team, but having that ongoing support for as much support as the franchisee would like, right? And we have great operators that really don't need us, and is awesome, right? But whenever they do, we're there 24/7, right? We'll go on site. We'll help in any capacity we can. You want me to review, any type of, purchases or scheduling questions or, best aspects on how to, okay, we're going into the winter months, into the holiday months. How should I help me with staffing plans and should I hire, how many people do you think I need? Getting more granular in that aspect. Um, and then assisting them just with anything, any marketing or anything that they would like in a much more of a symbiotic relationship where we're there to help and grow that store, opposed to just being here to get the stores open. So our focus is very much on the ongoing support, and that's like our commitment to our franchisees.
It's one of those things where you're like outside looking in, you think, yeah, like why wouldn't you do that? It's surprising that a lot of brands don't because, and I guess that gets back to the question, is this sort of like a marketing pitch money grab and then who cares what happens? Or is it like we want to build a sustainable, admirable business and brand that will endure the test of time and grow at a steady pace, but always be a brand that customers love and that employees love to work at and that franchisees want to be a part. That to me is like how, I mean, how you would think you would build a really successful franchise. You want to support the franchisee because you need them to be successful because their success then bleeds into the next franchisee who's
Mhm.
considering your brand going, well, how many fail? How many succeed? Oh, well, we have 100% success rate. It's like, it like makes the case for the brand. And then stores closing of any brand, it doesn't matter how many, like when places close, it can't help the brand, like,
Oh
in
no.
any way. Like you really, I would think like you said, you kind of want your franchisees to bet 1,000, to bat 1,000 because that just makes your story more powerful. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot
that's
of
your
brands out
instant
there.
instant validation from any prospect that wants to come, who's even looking at the brand in any capacity. Get instant validation from your franchisees who are successful and doing well, and they're getting the support they need, right? There's really no rebuttal, right, in your sales pitch, right? When your franchisees are kind of giving all the knowledge and kind of making the sale for you as things are going well for them. For us, there's no, a closure would be catastrophic to the brand in its infancy, right? I don't know. It'd be tough to overcome. I guess I'm not a shrewd enough salesman at all. It's not really my forte to try to overcome that objection to say, oh, well, you close the store and you only, one out of
Yeah.
four work, right? And it's not a good recipe for success and closure there. But we're blessed that things are going well and the franchisees are happy and all growing and hoping to grow to further units. So we're pumped.
Mean, you're all kind of around there. Is this a thing where you kind of have like concentric circles of growth, or do you have franchisees that are coming from like, other states or whatever? Or are you deliberately trying to grow like where you already have some sort of
Yeah,
brand
we
recognition?
we, we call it like hyper regional, right?
Okay.
We love the Southeast. We think there's great markets in Southeast United States. I mean, there's so many awesome markets here. We haven't marketed or spent, any money marketing outside of our 1 hour range in Northeast Florida, right?
Gotcha.
We have
Okay.
interest from other areas, and we're talking with other people that are a little bit further, 2, 3, 4 hours away. But right now, we probably wouldn't go much further than that, depending on the strength of the operator. If they've had experience and they, have multi-unit brand experience in doing things, and we'd be more apt to take a risk a little bit further. But we want to be able to support them.
Yeah.
If it's too far and too hard to navigate there, takes too long, then we really can't offer that support. So we want to make sure it matches, what we're doing corporate wise, and we can able to support them and give them all the tools they need.
Do your franchisees, some or all or any, have other brands that like, are they multi-brand franchisees, or do you tend to have ones that are just your brand?
One of our franchisees was a longtime Subway franchisee, but she's recently sold, that part and just all Grumpy's. But no, believe it or not, our first franchisee didn't come from the restaurant space at all or own, entrepreneur space. Was actually in like Border Patrol and
Oh, wow.
really wanted, he's awesome, but really strong in operations and a very smart guy. So we figured, and his wife also assisted him in the opening, and she had some restaurant knowledge, but she, raising the kids, it was more Dell, himself. And then, of course, he was partnered up with his parents, but they're more of the passive, retiree side. Big Dell's always there, usually in the evenings, going through, making sure, maintenance or, anything that needs to be done, just shaking hands and things like that. He's not going to be in there cooking or anything like that. But, Dell's just, he hits on all cylinders. I mean, they have 4.8 rating. They do very high volume. His store's amazing. And he crushes it. I mean, through all measurable aspects, they do phenomenal. And this is someone that came from no restaurant background, and coming in green just with eager, and the want and the drive to learn and master everything. And he hit the ground running, just phenomenal.
How do you understand like somebody like him that has no restaurant experience? How do you get comfortable going, I think you could do this?
Yeah, so it's really about getting to know them, and getting to know their personality a little bit. And then I thought I came up with this awesome process where before we sign anything, exchange, I don't want to check, I don't want anything. I want you to come spend a weekend with us, right? And I put the franchisee in the kitchen with our hourly employees. They'll be on the grill right next to them, shadowing them, getting their hands dirty, got them in a full Grumpy's uniform. And if you spend 5, 6, 7 hours with us, I call it in the heat, right? Selling food on the weekend. And let's say we had a call out or, things aren't going great. One fryer goes down, anything that can happen in the restaurant space. If you still like it after that and you can thrive off of that environment, I think you'll be successful, right? Coming in not knowing anything, blind, right? Just thrown in there, hourly employees that don't even know you're coming. We're not going to dress it up. I don't want you in a suit. It's not going to be a sales presentation, a PowerPoint or anything like that. It's going to be solely on you if you feel like, yeah, I can do this. On my worst day, this is my worst day, I can thrive, right? I'll be able to make this happen. Um, and come to find out, as I was learning, more brands have done that. I'm not, we're not the first. I thought I came up with this amazing thing. Like, hey, they should
Yeah.
spend 2 days with us, before we do anything. It's great for them and us. Like, if someone says, hey, that's crazy, you guys are way too busy. I'm looking for something more quick serve, more coffee shop, smoothie shop that
Yeah.
I can
Right.
handle. And great that works out for both of
For
us
both
because
sides. Sure.
yeah, and that's worked really well for people really understanding what they're getting into and if their skills match what it takes to manage a crew like that and an operation that like that.
How are things going right now with all of the um, challenges that y'all are facing? Labor costs are going up. Everything's going up. The consumer is, tightening their belts a little bit. So what's going on? Because and this also seems to vary, Daniel, based on where you are in the country. It seems a lot of times. So I'm curious how things are. I haven't talked to anybody in Jacksonville and Northeast Florida in a while.
I think Florida's more resilient than some other states in the U.S., but we are feeling those effects. We can't say that they're non-exist. They're very much existent, and I know other states have it worse than us, but we did see an influx of growth. It's kind of slowed down a little bit to the state, but overall, we did instituted that bill where we're going with $1 an hour minimum wage increase up into $15 an hour. So we kind of are one of the states that are kind of in that leadership pack that are doing that. So it does impact us every year just on, the tipped wages, right? All of our tipped employees, are taking $1 an hour wage every year on top of the competition and the wages in the other positions, right? Even your management, your lead line cooks, your prep cooks, all those lead positions. So it has been more challenging on the labor front, but it just brings home how tight and how efficient you have to be in your operation. We're blessed with high volume,
Yeah.
and a lot of people always say volume cures all, right? It helps, but and then also at the same time we're getting hit with rising food costs across the board and operational costs. It's not just food, right? You're looking at utilities, insurance, things, all across the board. So it's more challenging from a back end perspective in managing all that than it's ever been. Um, but staying on top of it and being in front of the curve really, really helps us and continually looking at pricing deals, working with manufacturers on manufacturer negotiated deals. Um, is really helped us. And I know it's harder to do with the single operation and the smaller independent restaurants, but any avenue we can work for having a better price on any product is really beneficial. And, looking at, I recommend to some independent operators looking at some group purchasing programs or things of that nature on that side to help combat some of the costs. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is challenging and it's something that needs to be monitored and tracked and assessed on a daily, weekly basis. If you're doing it every month or a month later when you finish the P&L, it's too late. You need to be really aggressive and really on top of the numbers and trying to catch those trends and curves real early and real quick to pivot, right? You don't want to be too reactive and look at your P&L every quarter or oh, I didn't finish it, I have some of it, and and that's where you get yourself into trouble.
Maybe could have done that in the past. Can't do that anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so do y'all, so you're not doing any outbound marketing or selling. So do you and your team, your wife and do y'all do all of the franchise development and or you don't have an outside firm that you're working with or do you?
No, actually, we do. Yeah.
Oh,
So I mean, we partnered with a small outside firm, Premier Franchise Solutions, Tom Parks, and he reps about three or four smaller brands as
okay.
outside sales. He has a couple people in his office, and that's the first line of the inquiries, right? We do get a lot of inquiries. Okay, at first we were trying to do it all, right, and then we got into over 50 to 100 calls a week,
Oh
right?
my
A couple
gosh.
hundred calls a month. So it just got to where I couldn't schedule the callbacks and run the operation. You don't know the interest, right? When you do it, you hope everyone's super excited about the brand. You're going to get tons of leads. Well, you don't know. Will I get one a week or 100?
Yeah.
Um, so as we scaled up, I mean, we've outsourced that a little bit, but we're still engaged very much in that process. And in like Tom even shares my personal information with everyone. Like, if you want to talk to Daniel, call him anytime. Once we're vetted and they go through the basic questionnaires and things like that, it's an open book. Any question, I'm available through text, email, calls. Really make myself accessible.
However, I don't know how much you want to share. I'm just curious, like if you're going, okay, I'm in that area. I don't really like what I'm doing right now, but I'm really good at operations. I'm a strong manager. I'm a strong leader. I might be interested. How much of an investment do I need to make to get
Yeah. So
involved?
right now we're seeing a total like all-in investment of a little bit over $1 million.
Okay.
Our goal is to be in the 900,000 range.
Okay.
But as things increase and cost increase, it makes it more difficult. And that includes everything from your franchise fee to the construction, the equipment, your opening training. We we put a lot of value in a large expense of the opening budget, upwards of 125,000 on pre-opening training. We
Okay.
want to have staff trained as highest level for the max amount of people as possible so we can hit the ground running. We see, extreme volumes on our store openings. And from the data we've we've acquired and from my past life, stores that plan appropriately, hire the appropriate amount of staff and invest those opening funds in that staff usually can open at about a 30% higher volume than the stores that don't, and they sustain that over the life of the franchise, opposed to stores that don't. They understaff, they have a lot of overtime, they didn't properly train people. They can never make up that 30% delta over the life of the franchise. It's just they're always behind the curve, right? And it's very like it's night and day in the franchisees that buy in and believe that versus the ones that don't. I mean, it's scary how easy it is to predict if how things are going to go depending on the staffing levels, the buy-in, the spend, from a franchisee. So in that, it seems like a large amount of money. It is, but if you look at the buckets, how the money's allocated, it's a great balance for a recipe to success in the restaurant space. Um, I've seen people try to do it other ways and cut and trim and cut and trim, and it just makes the long-term success very, very difficult.
Do uh, your franchisees typically use some sort of debt facility like an SBA loan, or are they
Sure, yeah.
typically bringing in equity or all cash or some mix of both?
Yeah, we have a half and half blend. We are registered in the SBA, and that's a great route to go. You're seeing 10% down on SBA loans with a 10-year term. So you can use a variant of that. There's some conventional lines of credit, so you can do a little blend. But I think, for the SBA is a great program, and it's kind of with us, we've done it multiple times with our brand. It's been successful. So we were registered with the SBA, approved through the SBA. We have a little bit of a track record. So I think it gives us a little bit of a leg up to get that 10% cash injection at a minimum and then go from there.
Yeah, I always wonder about that, because you've got, I mean, especially with like, look, if you're servicing debt, you got to be really good at getting everything right because margins are thin. But then if
Sure.
once you can get that debt paid off, I would think it would free up quite a bit of ability to
Oh,
invest more
definitely.
into the business. Hey, y'all, running a restaurant, as we all know, is no easy task, but Webstaurant Store has your back. From heavy duty equipment to everyday kitchen essentials, we've got everything you need to stay stocked all year long. And right now, you can save $50 on your order of $250 or more when you use the code WebSave50 at checkout. That's WEBSAVE50. WebSave50. But hurry, this offer is only available until December 31st. Visit webstaurantstore.com today to snag some savings. And y'all, I'll throw in this piece. That's what they asked me to say. These folks are awesome to work with. They have a great website, highly regarded, a lot of happy customers, and we're super stoked to have them as a sponsor. So go check them out, webstaurantstore.com. And again, that code is WebSave50. Thanks. Okay, so down there in Jacksonville, are y'all out at Ponte Vedra Beach?
We have a store in Neptune Beach, which
Yes.
is
Okay.
on the north side. So Ponte Vedra is south, but we do have a store at the beach.
That's a cool area, Neptune Beach.
Yeah,
That's a
oh, great
really cool
area.
area.
Awesome
There's
area.
are y'all near, I stayed down there for a night about a year ago. I was on a trip down to Orlando and stayed in there for a night. I went to, I'm sure you know Taco Lou.
Yep. I actually just went there last Saturday.
Did you
Yeah.
really?
I know Don and Debbie. Yeah, Don and Debbie, the owners down there, great people. Yeah, that's a staple in the beach community. That's awesome.
Don is he's been a customer of ours for a really long time, and I hung out with them. This was like a year, almost 2 years ago, and he gave me a Taco Lou shirt, dude. And I see you're grumpy. So I'm gonna trade you some merch here if I can get you to. But
Yes, sir.
I wear that Taco Lou shirt. I live in Charlotte. I get people in Charlotte. Oh my gosh, Taco Lou. I got somebody that approached me in the Denver, Colorado airport like last year. It was like, how do you know Taco Lou? It's just like what a legendary place.
Uh,
What a great dude. I don't know his wife. I know Don. Great dude. There's a we and I stayed at this little motel over there near there's Poe's Tavern.
it's
Um
Atlantic Beach. Yeah, we're literally a stone's throw away from there.
okay. Yeah, I figured that area is really cool. The
Mhm.
Poe's is there. There's Al's Pizza kind of right around there, and there's like a lot of good like just seemed like a really neat area.
We are literally next to Al's Pizza.
So I
Yeah,
didn't have barely any without. Okay, I've been to Al's, so I've been right at your doorstep. I have very little restaurant experience, but one of those experiences, the reason I know all this area is when I got out of college in 1996. Um, I was going into banking, but I had a job that started in September. And I lived in Ponte Vedra Beach that summer. And from 10 to 2, Monday through Friday, I was a salsa boy at Sierra Grill over there in that Target Center at Ponte Vedra. You know where that
yep.
place is? I'm pretty sure
I
it's still
do.
there. Yeah.
It is. Yep.
That was my that and I'll tell you, and the reason I tell you that story is um the guy that was my manager, Paul, uh would always come by and help me learn these little tips about the restaurant business that I knew. I mean, I knew nothing about it at that time, nor did I even care. I was just like, I'm just here for a paycheck.
Yep.
But I'll never forget that I was doing something with grated cheese. And I was like messy with the grated cheese and it would get all over the counter. And he came by one day, Daniel, and he literally put his hands down and he picked up like a pinch full of grated cheese and he held it right up at my face. He goes, money, money, money. And I was like, what? He goes, Will, this is a restaurant of pennies. That's money that you're just leaving out there. This doesn't need to happen. And I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. And that, like, I didn't get it. I was like, 22, right out of college, just clueless, just a total moron. But now I get it. And Paul and I are actually still in touch. Ironically, he also lives in Charlotte now, and we randomly ran into each other a few years ago. And I was like, dude, you were my manager. Like, but that lesson always stuck with me as we started, our business and serving restaurants, and I started talking to restaurant owners, and I was like, oh yeah, like I get it now. That's a big deal.
Yeah, great manager's everything. And if he's that in tune to the salsa boy, right?
Yes,
And standard and the procedure and the cost and the efficiency of the salsa and the grated cheese, he's probably got his hand on everything, right? If you're
he
going
did.
that granular, you're awesome. You're a great manager, and of course, it's not about the pinch of cheese, right? it's about the concept and the standard and maintaining that standard at all time, no matter what the position is, right? And then this is the same thing with the bathrooms. It's the same thing with the host. It's the same thing with the service. And it's the same thing with all the food quality, right? And never letting up, right? I mentioned that batting 1,000, right? That's his batting 1,000 right there, right? If you're doing anything, it's it should be efficient. It should be quality. It's going to have an impact on the bottom line and then the brand and the restaurant as a whole. It's that important.
It really is. The other thing he taught me that and then now of course like I do, like my kids are like making I'm like, dude, you just left cheese all like come on man, like that's money. And then he taught me how to core a tomato because like when I was like making I would like just chop like the top inch
Pull
off of the
top
tomato.
off. Yeah.
He's like, no, dude, like you don't know how to core a tomato. I'm like, I don't know how to core a tomato. He's like, it's this way. He's like, do you realize how much money that just I'm like, what? He's like, Will, think about how many tomatoes in a day. Now add that up 7 days a week, 360. Like you're talking about hundreds
Mhm.
and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It's a business of pennies. It all, and I was
Mhm.
like, golly, man, this guy is, at the time, I'm like, this dude's so over the top. Like, what is he talking about? And now it like makes so much sense.
Yeah, I mean, you can apply that logic in any business, in your home life, in your personal
Yeah.
finances, and everything. You can be as extreme, as tight as you want, but if you have balance there and quality, I mean, that's the key.
Yep. Yeah, no, no doubt about it. Well, y'all are in a really a great area, great climate, great part of the state, growing. I mean, that may have slowed down. That's just, I mean, gosh, it's slowing down everywhere because everybody got a really good mortgage rate for the last decade. Nobody wants to move, but that'll all
Hmm.
start to change as rates come down. So what's the biggest? I would say worry, but what are some of the challenges that you're focused on right now? I mean, we talked about some of them, and I assume that may be it, but I'm just curious, like if
Yeah.
there's,
Those are challenges from the operation side of the business that we talked about, really in the restaurants. But outside of the restaurant, we have a lot of competition, right? A lot of people coming to Florida, a lot of brands coming to Florida. With all the mass migration down to Florida, it brought entrepreneurs with them, and they see the market as we saw it, that it's a great market, right? We love it. We see tons of new neighborhoods and communities and areas where we can expand to, but the other good entrepreneurs and other good concepts see those same spots, right? They're like, those are great markets. So we have had competition enter the playing field that wasn't here. So as a franchise, we see that we do have more competition in this space and coming to more and more locations in Florida, and I see more and more brands from Texas and other areas coming, the Carolinas coming down and aggressively opening, um, which is great. I definitely believe in that. I love seeing it, especially the franchisees and the independent owned locations and things like that. I love it, but it is a challenge for us, and it's going to be. But we think it's a great challenge. But I do think it's awesome at the same time. But we may have some more competition.
are you familiar with this would be a lunch and dinner place. I'm not sure. I know they're in Florida. I'm not sure where it's called Brick Tops.
Mm-mm.
So Brick Tops is they started in Tennessee. They've got about 8 or 10 locations. I ate at a Brick Tops the other day here in Charlotte. They've been here forever. And you know, I was there with some friends and we all said Brick Tops is like it's like a go-to place, right? And what I've noticed about Brick Tops is they they are they are very focused on what's happening inside their four walls because that's what they can control.
Of course.
I mean, they're in a very, very competitive part. I mean, they're in South Park. This is like the
Mhm.
epicenter of competition in Charlotte. But they just keep consistently producing. You go in there and you're not expecting like some big wow, like oh, it's just they're going to smile. They're going to look you in the eyes. They're going to walk you all the way to your table and thank you for being there. The server's going to be attentive and present and intentional, and the food's going to be consistently good. It's not like this is the best food I've ever had or this is the most exciting. It's just nailing the basics every single day. It's amazing how consistent they are. So we're sitting there the other day, Daniel, and I was asking the server, I was like, so tell me about working for Bricktops. She's like, I've been here 11 years. I love it here. It's like, why is that? She goes, you know, we, our training is so good and so effective and so thorough and so intentional that they really set us up. They teach us how to be successful. And why would I want to go anywhere else? Like, nobody else is going to treat us as well and train us as well as we and I'm sitting here just going like these are just if you have that mentality, I guess my point around this is, and you seem to have this too, I can tell, there's going to be other brands that come and go. In some ways, competition's great because rising tide lifts all boats, right? It also
Sure.
keeps us on our toes. It forces us, and
Hmm.
you said this very early in this, like you embrace the challenge. You want the competition because you want that to force you to always be good and efficient and effective. But the things you can't control, which are, the economic cycles that are inevitable that we go through, the global pandemic that comes out of nowhere, like these things are going to happen and we don't know when and we can't control them. But what we can control is what happens when somebody walks in our doors, no matter what's going on in the outside world. And what we can control is, or what we can do is we can focus all of our energy on those things. The other things, let the chips fall where they may. But I think that if you look at great brands throughout history or brands that have endured, they they just focus on what they can control. And if you have that mentality and you're not overextended, you can get through almost anything, I think.
Yeah,
What
you're speaking my language. I mean, this is where we put all of our focus since the day we purchased it is people talk about marketing and what's your marketing plan? We are marketing in our four walls. We are so hyper focused on the guest experience. We literally call ourselves an experience-based brand, right? When you come to Grumpy's and
boom.
people are like, you're an experience brand? I was like, yeah, we don't have TVs, we don't, but it is an experience with your server and the hustle and bustle of the diner, the kitchen, the noise, the smell, right? We are creating that traditional Americana that Route 66 diner that, the flavors, the real buttermilk pancakes, the hash browns, that are seared golden brown on both sides. And, we still have the squeeze bottle ketchup dispensers and things like that. It's all intentional, but it's all built around a great experience and great service and communication, one-on-one communication with your server. Like you would experience, it's a little bit different, right? I'm all for tech and all those, things, but we don't do the order at the table on the handheld or pay at the table on a little monitor or things like that. We keep it old school by design. And of course, we
Mm.
have all the tech and KDS and digital tickets and everything in the back end, right? No problem. We're totally digital. Um, but in the front end, it's traditional Americana. It's service. It's that experience people would have with their barber or their hairstylist or their bartender back in the day, right? That's what we want to create inside the restaurant. And that's why we've been able to endure a lot of these challenges is because we've been focused on this from the beginning. That's how all the sales growth was built on great experiences. And it has to be multiple experiences, not just one, right? Um, and that's the challenge, but that's where we're really hyper focused. And then it carried us through the pandemic. We opened two stores during the pandemic. It carried us after that. And now when you see any type of ebbs and flows in your economic cycle, we're very resilient. Our sales are still up. We're blessed. We work really hard. Now we're not up double high double digits, but we are still up in volume, and that's in traffic and in sales. So we're really pumped about that at all locations. And that's kind of like the testament for us is if we're growing, we're doing something right in a growing market, in election cycle, all that good stuff.
Yep. 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 Amen, man. I mean, that's it. Look, I have a software business. I like some technology, but I mean, you're talking to a dude. I mean, this is my phone, man. Like, I carry a flip phone. I think you need enough tech to be dangerous, but only just enough to get by because we're losing that personal connection as a society and as a culture now with so much tech. And it's been fascinating in the restaurant world because over the last, you know, decade, until the last couple of years, I mean, money was free. So VC firms were putting billions and billions of dollars into these restaurant tech firms. And I had an owner that I was speaking to the other day, and he said, Will, there must have been a lot of technology that sounded really good to VC people, but that had never actually been put in the hands of a restaurant operator because it doesn't do what we actually need it to do. And I thought that was an interesting way to say it. But there has been, it's like tech's gonna save you and make your restaurant better and everything's gonna be great because of tech. And I'm like, I don't know about all that. Like restaurants are about people, like period. Like it's about going in and having a person take great care of you just like they would if you went into their home. And that's what hospitality is. And was it Maya Angelou said, people don't remember what you say to them, but they remember how you made them feel. And to me, that's what
Very,
hospitality is all about. It's like how they make you feel. And you always will remember that. And you're like, I don't know. I just went to that place and it felt right. It felt good. I felt welcome. Like you're just gonna keep going back. Even if that one day they don't bat 1,000, you're like, so I was at one time, we'll go back again, they get it right. And it's like you have a little bit of room to breathe if you're getting all the basics just. And it is basics, man. It's like why you give your phone to all the, like they can call me, they can email me. It's like, who does that anymore? Like nobody just I have a lot of entrepreneur friends and I mean, it's weird because it's like a pro con situation where it's like the good thing about today running a business in today's world is that the bar is so freaking low that if you just get the bare minimum basics right all the time, you're like a like people are like blown away by your business. Whereas the bad side of that is like the bar is so low that it's like pathetic that like most businesses you do business with just can't even get just the simple things right. You know?
I have that conversation all the time when we have a lot of vendors and I'm just like, how is that company so big? What are they doing? This is wild. This is, I mean, the standard
Why?
for
Because the
service
service is so
is so poor, or the
yeah.
follow through, or it's just amazing. It has gotten to a different dynamic, and then that's what leaves us the door wide open for us to come through and be great all the time. And I preach that nonstop. And we have to bat 1,000. 98%, 95%, it's just not good enough. I mean, we keep the standard very high.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough people keep their standard high enough. Um, and you even mentioned like people reaching out to me, right? And it's gotten so different where sometimes people won't reach out because I don't want to bother them. No, they're not used to it, right? And I'm like, no, please, I can answer a question in 1 minute, and it may be on your mind for weeks, right? Or a franchisee that has a smallest issue with an Excel spreadsheet or something, and I'm like, oh, this is what you did wrong. I can fix it. Or they could have spent 4 hours milling around on where their elbow messed something up, and now we're looking at some scheduling, or something that they're doing that could have easily been solved in a minute, and we just moved on.
Man, yeah, I tell you what, dude, we're like brothers from another mother. I have my cell phone number is on our public website, and people call. They're like, "Are you sure?" Like, I'm like, yes, like, yeah, but aren't you one of the owners in the business? Yeah, that's it. this is my baby. Like, of course I want you to call me. Of course I want to help you. Like, how could I not? Like, this is my livelihood and something I've spent 17. Like, yeah, man. Like,
I do the
I,
same thing.
I
I do it so much to OCD. Like if someone emails us at any of the info or any of the email addresses for a complaint, right? I respond to them personally. And then, I always try to reach out and send them some Grumpy's cash and get them to return. And when I do send them the Grumpy's cash, I send a handwritten letter, hand signed letter with it, apologizing for the visit and personally, wet ink signing it, and welcoming them back. I mean, that is literally when I first bought the brand, I would go on Instagram every night. I'd go home 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, and I would message 50 people. This is all that Instagram would let you message per night at the time, is you can only send 50 direct messages. And I'd go search the Orange Park, Florida. I'd go search food or Orange Park, anything in the area, and I'd invite anyone that's anything to do with food or likes food or like the food page, and I'd invite 50 people a night to come
that's so
personally try
awesome.
grumpy. Literally every night, watching TV, boom, watching Monday Night Football, boom, 50 people, 50 people, 50 people.
Oh,
And and I'm not saying that that's the marketing strategy of the genius or the world, but I'm saying that is how old school and back to the basics I've taken it. And it does
yes.
take, if you're that diligent, obviously I'm probably, the person's probably that diligent in everything they're doing. So they're hitting in a lot of different areas, right? Obviously, now we have PR firm. We're doing all these things. We have great people around us, we've partnered with great companies, but at one point we started with personal invites, literally as many people as we could invite, handing out $5 Grumpy's cash. I got these Grumpy's cash, looks like $5 bills, but with Grumpy's character on it. And, I hand them out all the time. I keep them in my car, keep them in my bag. My mom keeps them. She goes to the grocery store. She sees her mailman or woman, and she's giving them Grumpy's cash to come dine with us. It's
Oh,
that. I mean, I take it that old school. Like give it to the teller when I go to Dairy Queen last night. I'm like, how many people you got working? They're like 6. I hear a bunch of $5 Grumpy's cash for all the kids working.
love
Come
it,
eat,
dude. God, I love that.
they'll be back. They're going to use it. They'll be
Absolutely.
back. Uh, we're a
Abso-freaking-lutely.
mile away from the restaurant. That's our local customer. I'm reaching. I'm always doing that. You know, uh, as much as we can. To everyone. And man, you wouldn't see the return rate on that. Got to be without exaggerating, 85%, 90%.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
doesn't come with free money? It comes right back.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And it's just a simple, basic thing, the discipline to just execute it over and over and over. Dude, I love that, man. Man, listen, I love the old school, just common sense. I mean, just take good care of people. Take care of the people that work for you. Take care of your customers. It all comes back around. It always works out well. If the And this gets back to that conversation about, is it for the franchise or the franchisee? It's if it's this weird thing where, like, if you build something for the purpose of, like, I want to build this because I want to grow it and sell it and make a lot of money, you're probably not going to be successful. But if your odds are, you might, but the odds, I'd say, are pretty low. But if you build it with, I want to build something that I love and that I care about and is meaningful to all the constituents, to me, to my employees, to my customers, to my vendors, you're going to win. You're going to build something that's so amazing and so valuable and so meaningful that the financial piece is like the byproduct. It's not the focus, but it will come with that. I mean, I think about so many great brands where, I mean, the guy who started Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard, he still, well, now he's like giving away the company to not for profit or something, but like he never took that public. He built something that was like he was passionate about and it was worth like billions of dollars, but it was all built because I love what I do, not I want to make a lot of money. And I think that so many entrepreneurs miss that. Maybe they learn the hard way or maybe they figure it out over time, but I think a lot of them still, but like that mentality, that old school, which seems like old fashioned, it's so rare these days. It is really valuable.
I know
I
I
believe
said it,
that.
and you're speaking my language. Tom Parks, who represents us on the franchise development
Yeah.
side,
Yeah.
he'll tell you we believe in quality growth, right? And that doesn't
Yeah.
mean we have to, quality doesn't mean we have to open 5 stores a year. It could be one, it could be zero, right? If we open one quality store a year, that's a success,
Yeah.
right? We're looking long term, we're looking market share. There's no rush to open with the wrong partner, right? Will we say no? Probably like a 10-to-1 ratio, then we say yes, right? It has to be the right fit in the right area, the right franchisee that fits our culture. If people want to come in and just say, hey, I got this money, let me open 3 stores real quick. Like, what's the management plan? What is your plan to be on site? If it's just a portfolio ad, it's probably not right for us right now. Maybe when we have 100 stores, it'll be different, right? But right now, we need we want owners in their stores operating their stores. We want them being part of the community. We
Yeah.
don't want to just throw open, stores open in Tennessee somewhere, boom, 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 and see if it sticks. It's just we're looking for quality sustainability. Even our aspect on, like, when we're taking price to combat some of these increased costs, we're last to the party. We see where things go. We make a market share. Maybe we don't take as much as we should, but we look at it as we still want to stay true to our values and give that, working person's portion at a working class price and not go too crazy. We don't want to be I call it West Coast breakfast pricing. We don't want to be there. We don't want to be in that model, right? We want to be in the working class, traditional Americana. Um, and that comes with some sacrifices, right? We sacrifice some margin sometimes on that, but we look at it to the future. We're still growing. We have 9% growth. We are seeing traffic increase at every single store. So the the outlook is, yes, we gave up a little bit of margin, but look where we're at because of it, right? We could have increased prices $1, $2 across the board, and it probably the spreadsheet tells us to do that, you know, but we consciously don't, we just don't, we want to continue to grow our market share. We're a new brand. We're younger. Some of our stores are just over a year old. So it's not the right time to do anything like that. I don't think it ever will be, but we want to quality, sustain, slow growth, is not always a bad thing.
The spreadsheet tells us to do that, man. The variance between what a spreadsheet says and what somebody who really understands a
Mhm.
business and is on the ground thinks is often pretty wide. And I love that you have that approach, my friend. You're building what I call a Buffett business. You were in Maryland. You probably know Warren Buffett.
Of course.
I always say like the best business is build a business that if Warren Buffett bought tiny little businesses for his, right? Like you're not a tiny business, but to the type of
Yeah.
businesses that he buys, you are. But if you build a business based on those principles that he would want to buy if he bought small businesses, you're going to be very successful. Period. End of story. And those principles are not complicated. They're old school, but when executed with consistent discipline every single day are a great formula for success. And that sounds like what you're doing, man. I love it. I love it, man. I'm so glad we got to talk.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great. I'm excited for the future, and I'm excited where we're at. I think we've done well, but I look forward to doing even better. I always keep moving that bar. I guess you know, my bar just continues to move. It's an unachievable goal, right? To always be great, but that's the same thing I preach to, my sons, the teams I coach for my son and my daughter. It's your definition of greatness and success is can be different, but you probably if you really are great, you're never hitting it, right? You never stop, you never slow down. And some of the kids don't understand it. My 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds are starting to get it now that we're constant pursuit of perfection. But we'll end on excellence. That's fine. We're good
I
with
love
that.
it.
But we'll
I
keep
love it.
going.
Pursuit of perfection, end on excellence. Well, listen, I'm going to be come. So the reason I was over there at Taco Lu every year is buddy of mine and I drive down from Charlotte to south of Orlando. My friend who lives in Orlando has a little hunting cabin down there, and we get on and hunt wild feral pigs because they're, like a nuisance species down there. And so
Yep. Mm-hmm.
we always stop in Jacksonville and on the way. So what I'm going to do this year, and we're trying to nail down the date, might be MLK weekend, but I'm going to let you know when we're heading that way because this year we're going to come by Grumpy's and
Let's
hang
do it.
out.
I'll buy you breakfast. Let's do it.
I want some Grumpy's cash.
You got it. Yeah.
Daniel, man, this is fun. I really am glad we talked. I love your approach to business, man, and I'm looking forward to staying in touch. I appreciate you sharing and giving us this opportunity to have the conversation with you.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having the Grumpy's brand. We appreciate it.